So every single year, HubSpot releases their State of Marketing report. They've done this for 2025, and HubSpot generally targets a very wide-reaching audience, a lot of high-level chief marketing officers, executive staff teams that run bigger organizations. But I kind of pushed against that, and I said, okay, what are the things that freelance marketers, people that are doing this for clients, they have a small client base, any managing accounts and companies, and B2B and B2C within the $2 to $10 million range, what can we really take away from a national, super dense, 45-page report look like? Well, lucky for you, I've gone in this week and I've broken down every single part of it, and I'm going to give you the 5 biggest takeaways that marketers can use to increase their revenue, make more money, and be ahead of the trends in 2025. Keeping up with marketing trends and leveling up your career doesn't have to be overwhelming, so don't go at it alone. Welcome to the Marketing by Design podcast, powered by AMA Columbus. Join host Andy Milligan every Tuesday as you and I dive into the info that you need to know as a marketer. Whether your goal is to land a job, grow that network, make more money, or level up your career in marketing, you are in the right place. Come for the actionable info, stay for the pressing conversations with industry marketing leaders, and walk away the best equipped marketer ready to dominate your niche. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Let's go. You guys are listening to entry number 82 of Marketing by Design. Thank you for coming back to the show this week. I'm your host, Andy Milligan, MMG Design. I'm super stoked to be talking to you guys this week. So diving into this report, there's a lot to cover, and we're going to keep this very high level and to the point. What are the things that you can, after listening to this in your audio, in your AirPods, what can you take away and apply to your client campaigns? If you haven't dove into this report, we're going to keep it very simple. But there's 3 quotes that I want to lead with you that really struck out with me as I was sifting through this PDF and thinking, okay, what are the things that marketers can really take value from and start acting upon? And this one quote by Kieran Flanagan: to capture audiences, marketing needs to be intelligent, visual, and brand-led. A lot of the science of marketing will get automated by AI, leaving more time for the actual craft. So HubSpot has really, you have to think, when you read reports like this, what is HubSpot incentivized by? HubSpot is incentivized by selling products. They are a business. So it is very top of mind for them to create awareness content around AI to market their AI products. And we know this. So whether or not we're actually seeing the trends in AI affect client campaigns, how we're working in our own day-to-day, it's really important to be mindful of how we're actually using it. And okay, we can take away these lessons from the bigger organizations and distill them down to something that we can actually practice. And I think having this overarching principle and narrative that marketing needs to be intelligent, visual, and led by creatives, that's a good North Star to have. So when you're thinking about putting together a campaign, whether it's an email strategy or just designing content, how can you make this very intelligent and stick out? Or how can it be brand-led? Because I know people talk a lot about founder-led content, about building brands around your product. And it's very much almost become a buzzword. But when we think about the practical applications of how we actually resonate with content, people go on platforms to be entertained, right? So when you think about when you're scrolling through LinkedIn, Instagram, any of the social platforms, you're resonating with that brand side. So being able to zoom out and think, how can I apply this to my own campaign when I market myself, when I go to networking events, what are people seeing from my social feeds and my clients' social feeds between our biggest touch points? So intelligent, visual, brand-led. If you leave with one thing from this podcast, remember those 3 buzzwords. When it comes down to age groups that are being the most targeted by marketing teams, I found this pretty fascinating. So in B2B, 73 to 74% of ad spend and ad directive are fitting the audience of millennials. So when you do a brand storyboard, when you're really mapping out a piece of content, have someone in that age demographic in mind, from late college age all the way up to early 30s. Really try and put them as your ITC, no matter, and obviously this is industry and context dependent, but all things considered, you want to make your content appropriate, but optimized for people in that millennial range, but then optimized for people that can also consume it that fall outside of those 2 ranges. Another very fascinating part of this report was the top priority recruits for some of these marketers. And we have the list of the top 5 priority job roles that big marketing teams are looking for in college graduates and freelancers. And I thought this was very interesting. So the top 5 marketing roles that are listed as priority recruits for marketers in 2025 are social media coordinators, content creators, social media strategists, creative directors, and marketing data analysts. And that is in order from most in demand to least in demand. So if you are a very niche branded occupation, and that's what your education is, coming straight out of college, you might want to consider opening up your scope of how you brand yourself. So one of the best titles to have nowadays is a content creator. It is a marketing analyst, because you're able to fill more buckets. And when you're young, you're emerging, you're just in your first experience with a marketing team, you really don't have it in you to say that you can niche down to a super high extent. So if you're just graduated, if you're just fresh in the market and you haven't had a large breadth of experience with other experienced marketers, creatives in a team setting, it's going to be really hard to find a role where you can demand a super niche placement like a graphic designer or a very specific software analyst. So keep that in mind. Really brand yourself as a content creator, because even when you get into these roles, you're going to be asked to be doing things like short form video editing, content creation, all these things that you might not be used to doing. So keep that in mind when it comes to branding yourself at these networking events, submitting job resumes, or just meeting people online, doing your social browsing on LinkedIn. The last big tidbit I want to touch on, and this is going to be a pretty dense one, is content. So everybody's consuming content nowadays, all these different formats. There's so much noise, there's so much traffic. And as we talked about in the beginning, you want to be shifting from a traffic economy to an attention economy. But how do we bridge that gap? And there's a lot of interesting stats in here in this Hubspot report that talk about what the traffic trends are. And like I said, you want to keep in mind where these organizations are coming from, where they're getting their data. But if you're a freelance marketer and you're trying to apply this data to your exact campaigns and needs, these are the things that you need to know and be mindful of. Branded video content is where it's at, and it's where the top marketers are shoving all of their chips in. So if you ever have a choice to transition to video, then that's really something that you have to get behind. And when we talk about these trends, you want to think, okay, what's the smallest possible action that I can take just to be ahead of this, or to get my finger on the pulse of what this looks like fully manifested? And this could be transitioning just one of your content posts per week to a short form video. It could be adding a long form element to your existing calendar and using that to inform some more longer form content and the throughput of it. It could also look like finding new ways to make these more efficient for your inbuilt content system, whether that's sending along a team to follow your founder around to collect content from him and just have a camera out and be someone that can capture those organic moments and lower that friction in terms of getting on video, because that's the circle we're all trying to square when we're working for clients. But perhaps the most shocking thing that I read through this, and you might not believe this, is how bullish the marketing industry is nowadays on podcasting. 91% of marketing teams plan to maintain or increase their investments in podcast and audio content in 2025. To me, this is absolutely insane. 91% is one of the highest statistics and content ratings that are reflected across all of these platforms. And when you think of podcasts, you don't think of a mainstream media. You think of social media, you think of short form video, you think of all the things that are very top of mind in our social feeds. But the average US adult listens to over 8 hours of podcasts in a week. 8 hours in a week. And the shorter form podcasts are becoming more common. That's what we're doing here on Marketing by Design, our collaboration with the AMA. If you can that is a huge amount of real estate, and you can steal a very small portion of your customers' attention throughout that 8 hour span, whether it's just a small audio upload or repurposing some longer form content onto an RSS platform to get more exposure that way in a passive listening environment like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That is some very low-hanging fruit, and it fits in with these trends, especially when things like video may not be as accessible coming up. The biggest teams are doubling down on podcasting, but the riches are in the niches. So if you have a very niche audience, a very clear customer persona, they will be more than happy to tune into you for a short amount of time, whether it's every week, every month. Get a podcast up, get a cadence established, and use it as a chance to network, learn what people are doing, and share collaborations. It's just like video in the sense that it's a very naturally inbuilt collaboration tool where you can have on other podcasters, you can talk about your industry, and you can really use it as a marketing asset that distributes to other channels, and it makes your overall online presence and marketing strategy more effective. These are the biggest takeaways from the HubSpot 2025 State of Marketing Report. There's a lot more about AI in this that I want to touch on just briefly before we wrap up. These things include personalization, authenticity, and traffic, and attention. These things include personalization, authenticity, and attention. And when you think of AI, when you think of anything AI and content and marketing, authenticity and personalization usually probably aren't the first words that come to mind, and I know that. But now that's the circle we're trying to square in terms of making a content strategy effective with these tools that can help us improve our reach and make our workflows more effective. Get out of the mindset of just posting as much as you can, and using AI is not something that allows you to increase your output, but your quality as output as well. There's a lot of very specific case studies in this report that reference some very good conversion metrics from personalized data. So that's a very good thing to keep on your radar this year when you're working on client campaigns, is to just inbuild a little bit of personalization throughout all touch points. And to me, this manifests itself a lot in things like email copywriting, liquid tags in your emails where you can really speak one-to-one a lot better. But it's also in your touch points. So it all comes down to knowing who your audience is and speaking to them on a one-on-one level. And that's what I've seen convert best with my clients, is really taking some dedicated time to get in touch with the founder, with the brand manager, people that are very in touch with the copy and the brand voice, and making sure that's reflected across, all touch points. Like I said, through the emails, through the website copy, through the social media. And if you have that lever in place, then it's going to be a lot more effective, and you can actually train LLMs on what your brand voice is, and then that's how you start to increase the volume from there. But you want to make sure that you have the foundational elements set up of actually knowing who your customers are and what resonates best, so that you can make these efficiencies actually worthwhile. One of the biggest case studies in authenticity from just so far this year was the Jaguar rebrand. And this was actually mentioned in this report. Now, we could go down a whole entire rabbit hole with the whole Jaguar rebrand. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to do that because it is a lot of opinion-based marketing in here. But it was, I believe, very intentional. So when we talk about authenticity, Jaguar is no longer trying to target the people of the past, right? If their goal was, and that's when it comes down to the topic of what success looks like in a campaign. If your goal was to create buzz and target a new audience, then like home run successful, right? Like Jaguar, they're releasing their new EVs, this whole new brand model campaign focused on sustainability, targeting the Gen Z audience like we talked about, smashing a home run success. But in the short term, when you invest very heavily into brand, like we talked about earlier in this episode, guys, you're going to come with pushback, and you're going to come with a friction period where it just doesn't fall flat because you're transitioning your audience. And this could be taken as a bad move if you don't know your existing audience and you're just speaking into a void. But I think Jaguar was actually very calculated with this move. And as they make a transition in product, they're going to attract a new audience, and they need their marketing to reflect that. So when you think of trying to reach your customers on a personal and authentic level, play these cards. Be bold, be risky, be daring. Show the things that make you you. And then I think a lot of the fruits from that will start to manifest in who responds, and you'll get a better sense of who your audience is by putting yourself out there. So it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. Okay, so landing the plane on this one, and this is really the biggest overarching summary of this whole report, and that is attention. Like I said, with AI generated content and LLMs, you can create so much content at scale that is no longer what can differentiate you. You have to be able to speak one-on-one with the amount that you do create. So it's no longer about programmatic SEO. It's no longer about posting every day. People know that these things are effective and that they help. But to be honest with you guys, unless you can really make those effective and attract actual attention to each one of those pieces of content, you're going to just get lost in the void. And it's very internally satisfying to have the short-term reward of saying, yes, check the box, post it every day. We logged on to Metricool, we logged on to Buffer Huffer, we've logged on to Buffer Hootsuite, we've checked all the boxes, all of our clients' posts are up, let's go. But unless you're actually staying up to date with newsletters, with resources, with things like Hubspot, to actually know what trends are getting attention and what's actually getting engagement, this comes through looking at the data and knowing your audience very well. So try this year, when you're working with clients, when you're posting your own content, to shift from the mindset of more to better. And this is a big Hormozy principle, and we talk about Hormozy a lot here in the AMA. But shouting into a void when you're working with clients is not what you want. It's not the impression that you want to have. So you want to make sure you're focusing on content that is written well, has good hooks and attention, and is really targeted towards your niche. So that's going to wrap it up for this entry, Marketing by Design, powered by the American Market Association Columbus chapter. Tonight, February 25th. Tonight, February 25th is a panel hosted by Dawson in Columbus and Grandview, Ohio. Andrew Holst is going to be speaking at that. Make sure you check out the link in the description if you want to get some last-minute tickets. We would love to see you there. Again, my name is Andy, founder of MMG Design here in Columbus, Ohio. Be sure to sign up to our mailing list to stay informed on all the latest marketing resources for 614 residents if you're trying to grow a freelance business and network with other marketers and creatives, grow your bottom line, and increase your impact. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. We'll see you next time.